The world had ended for Elias Carter exactly 3 years ago, on a rain-soaked evening when he lost the only person who ever truly saw him. He was 22 then, a black college student with dreams too big for his small Ohio town. And Mateo Alvarez was the spark that lit his soul ablaze. Now, inexplicably, Elias stood in the same town square, the clock tower frozen at 6:47 p.m. The exact moment he'd lost everything. Elias blinked, his breath catching as he realized the impossible. He was back. The air smelled of damp earth and coffee from the nearby diner, the same one where he and Mateo had shared their first shy glances. His heart raced as he scanned the familiar streets of Willow Creek, Ohio, a quiet town nestled between rolling hills and fading dreams. It was 2022 again, and the weight of his second chance pressed against his chest like a stone. He had died that night. He was sure of it, crushed under the wreckage of a car crash that stole Mateo too. Yet here he was, whole, alive, with a chance to rewrite the story. The town square buzzed with its usual evening rhythm. Teenagers loitered near the fountain, their laughter sharp against the hum of distant traffic. Elias's eyes darted to the diner's neon sign, flickering in the dusk. He knew Mateo would be there, wiping down tables after his shift, his smile a quiet rebellion against the world's indifference. Elias's legs moved before his mind caught up, carrying him toward the diner's glass doors. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of fries and nostalgia. Mateo stood behind the counter, his dark hair falling into his eyes as he scrubbed a stubborn stain. At 24, Mateo Alvarez was a whirlwind of charm and quiet strength. A Mexican-American artist who poured his soul into sketches nobody in Willow Creek understood. His flannel shirt was rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms smudged with charcoal from his latest drawing. Elias froze, his heart a drumbeat. This was real. Mateo was real. Eli. Mateo's voice was soft, uncertain. As he looked up, his brown eyes held a flicker of recognition, but also confusion, as if he sensed something impossible in Elias's gaze. "You okay, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." Elias wanted to laugh, to cry, to pull Mateo into his arms and never let go. Instead, he forced a smile, his voice unsteady. "Just missed you. That's all." Mateo's brow furrowed, but he grinned, tossing the rag aside. "Missed me? I saw you. Like, yesterday." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a teasing whisper. "What's got you so intense, Carter?" Elias's throat tightened. Yesterday for Mateo was a lifetime ago for him. He remembered every moment they'd lost the stolen kisses behind the library, the late-night talks about escaping to California, the way Mateo's laughter could unravel his darkest days. And he remembered the fight, the one that had sent Mateo storming out into the rain, straight into the path of that car. Elias had followed, too late to stop it, too late to say he was sorry. "I just needed to see you," Elias said, his voice barely above a whisper. He stepped closer, the counter between them feeling like an ocean. "Can we talk? Outside?" Mateo hesitated, his eyes searching Elias's face. Then he nodded, grabbing his jacket. "Yeah, sure. Let's go." They stepped into the cool evening, the town square glowing under streetlights. Elias's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of this second chance. He didn't know how or why he'd been given it, but he knew one thing: he wouldn't let Mateo slip away again. Every missed moment, every unspoken word would orchestrate them all, twist fate itself to keep Mateo safe. They walked toward the old oak tree at the edge of the square, where they'd once carved their initials in a fit of reckless hope. Elias's fingers brushed the rough bark, tracing the faded E. C plus M. A. Mateo leaned against the tree, his expression soft but guarded. "So, what's up?" Mateo asked, crossing his arms. "You're acting weird, even for you." Elias laughed, a shaky sound that betrayed his nerves. I've been thinking about us. About what we could be. The words felt dangerous. Raw. But he couldn't hold them back. Not this time. Mateo's eyes widened, a flush creeping up his neck. Us, he said, his voice barely audible. Eli, you know how it is here. Willow Creek isn't exactly welcoming. Elias stepped closer, his heart pounding. I don't care about this town. I care about you. I always have. The air between them crackled, heavy with unspoken truths. Mateo's gaze dropped to the ground, then lifted, his eyes shimmering with something Elias hadn't seen in years' hope. You mean that? Mateo whispered. Before Elias could answer, a shout broke the moment. Across the square, a group of guys from their old high school lingered, their voices carrying a familiar edge of mockery. One of them, a broad-shouldered man named Travis, sneered in their direction. Yo, Alvarez. Carter. What's this? A date? Mateo tensed, his jaw tightening. Elias felt a surge of protectiveness, his hands curling into fists. He remembered Travis's taunts, the way they'd chipped away at Mateo's confidence. In their first life, Elias had stayed quiet, too afraid to fight back. Not this time. Mind your own business. Travis, Elias called, his voice steady despite the adrenaline. He stepped closer to Mateo, shielding him from the group's stares. Travis laughed, but there was a nervous edge to it. Whatever. Man. Just don't cry when this town eats you alive. As the group wandered off, Mateo let out a shaky breath. You didn't have to do that, he said, but his eyes were bright. Grateful. I should have done it sooner. Elias replied, his voice fierce. He reached for Mateo's hand, their fingers brushing in a tentative, electric touch. I'm not hiding anymore. Not from them. Not from you. Mateo's smile was small, but it lit up the night. You're different tonight. Eli, he said softly. I don't know what's changed, but I like it. Elias's heart soared, but a shadow lingered in his mind. This was only the beginning. He had to keep Mateo safe, had to rewrite the tragedy that had torn them apart. As they stood under the oak tree, hands entwined, Elias vowed to fight for every moment, to twist fate until their story had the ending they deserved. The next morning, Elias woke with a jolt, the memory of Mateo's hand in his still burning in his mind. Sunlight streamed through his bedroom window, painting the walls of his childhood home in warm gold. He was still in Willow Creek, still 22, still alive. The weight of his second chance felt heavier now, laced with the fear that it could slip away. He met Mateo at the diner again, this time for breakfast. The place was quieter in the morning, filled with the soft clink of coffee mugs and the murmur of regulars. Mateo sat across from him, sketching absent-mindedly on a napkin, his brow furrowed in concentration. Elias watched him, memorizing every detail the way his fingers moved with quiet precision. The faint scar above his eyebrow from a childhood fall. He couldn't shake the image of Mateo's lifeless body in the rain, the one he'd failed to save. You're staring, Mateo said, glancing up with a playful smirk. What's on your mind? Eli. Elias hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Just thinking about the future. Where we could go. You ever think about leaving this place? Mateo's pencil paused, his expression softening. All the time, he admitted. I've got sketches of places I've never been. San Francisco. Maybe. Or L.A. Somewhere I can breathe. You know. Be myself. Elias's chest ached. In their first life, they'd talked about California. About chasing dreams under a sky that didn't feel so heavy. They'd never made it. Let's do it, Elias said, his voice urgent. Let's leave. Together. Mateo laughed, but it was tinged with doubt. You make it sound so easy. What about school? Your family? My mom, she needs me here. Elias leaned forward, his hands gripping the table. We'll figure it out. I can't stay here. Mateo, not without you. The intensity in his voice caught Mateo off guard. He set the pencil down, his eyes searching Elias's face. You're serious, aren't you? Dead serious, Elias said, the irony of the phrase twisting in his gut. He reached across the table, his fingers grazing Mateo's. I know it's fast, but I've never been surer of anything. Mateo's breath hitched, and for a moment, the diner faded away. It was just them, two souls caught in a fragile, beautiful moment. Then the bell above the door jingled, shattering the spell. A woman in her 50s, Mateo's mother, Rosa, stepped inside. Her face was lined with worry, her eyes darting to their joined hands. Mateo, she said, her voice sharp. We need to talk. Now. Mateo pulled his hand back, his expression clouding. Ma, what's wrong? Rosa glanced at Elias, her gaze heavy with unspoken judgment. It's your brother. He's in trouble again. I need you home. Elias's stomach dropped. He remembered Mateo's older brother, Javier, whose struggles with addiction had cast a long shadow over their family. In their first life, Javier's chaos had pulled Mateo away, night after night, until the fight that ended everything. Elias couldn't let that happen again. I'll come with you, Elias said, standing before Mateo could protest. Rosa's eyes narrowed, but she didn't argue. They left the diner together, the morning air crisp and heavy with tension. At Mateo's house, a cramped bungalow on the edge of town, Javier was pacing the living room, his eyes bloodshot. He was 28, tall and wiry, with a restless energy that set Elias on edge. I just need a little help, Ma, Javier was saying, his voice desperate. Just this once. Rosa's hands trembled as she faced him. You said that last time. Mijo, I can't keep doing this. Mateo stood between them, his shoulders slumped. Javi, you promised you'd get clean. What happened? Javier's gaze flickered to Elias, then back to Mateo. Don't lecture me, little brother. You're too busy playing house with your boyfriend to care. The words hit like a slap. Mateo flinched, and Elias stepped forward, his voice low but firm. Don't talk to him like that. Javier laughed, a bitter sound. Oh, look at you, the hero. Stay out of this, Carter. The room crackled with tension, and Elias felt the weight of his past mistakes pressing down. He'd stayed silent too many times. Let Javier's chaos drive a wedge between him and Mateo. Not this time. Mateo's trying to help you, Elias said, his voice steady. But you're not dragging him down with you. Rosa's eyes softened slightly, but Javier's face twisted with anger. Before he could respond, Mateo stepped in, his voice quiet but resolute. Enough, Javi. You need to leave. Now. Javier stared at his brother, something breaking in his expression. He grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Rosa sank onto the couch, her face in her hands. Mateo knelt beside her, whispering reassurances, but his eyes found Elias's, filled with gratitude and something deeper. Later, as they sat on the porch steps, the stars blinking above, Mateo spoke softly. You didn't have to stand up for me back there. I did, Elias said, his voice thick with emotion. I've lost you before. Mateo, I won't let it happen again. Mateo's eyes widened, confusion flickering across his face. Lost me? What are you talking about? Elias cursed himself for the slip. He couldn't tell Mateo the truth not yet. Instead, he took Mateo's hand, his thumb tracing circles on his palm. Just promise me you'll stick with me, no matter what. Mateo's smile was tentative, but real. I'm not going anywhere, Eli. As they sat there, hands entwined, Elias felt the fragile thread of fate in his grasp. He would fight for every moment, rewrite every mistake. But the shadow of the past lingered, a reminder that time was not as forgiving as it seemed. Days turned into weeks, and Elias clung to every moment with Mateo like a man drowning. They stole time together in quiet corners of Willow Creek by the river where they skipped stones, in the library where they whispered dreams between dusty shelves. But the town's undercurrent of judgment never faded. Whispers followed them. Eyes lingered too long, and Elias felt the weight of a community that didn't understand their love. One evening, they drove to a hill overlooking the town, Mateo's old pickup rattling under the strain. The sky was a canvas of purples and oranges, and Mateo spread a blanket on the grass, his sketchbook open beside him. Elias watched him draw, the lines of a cityscape taking shape under his deft hands. "You're good at that," Elias said, leaning closer. "Why don't you show your stuff to someone? Like a gallery or something?" Mateo laughed, a soft, self-conscious sound. "In Willow Creek, they'd probably burn my sketches for being too weird." "Then we leave," Elias said, his voice fierce. "We go somewhere your art can shine, somewhere we can be us." Mateo's pencil stilled, his eyes meeting Elias's. "You really believe in me, don't you?" "More than anything," Elias said, and he meant it. He'd seen Mateo's talent in their first life, watched him sketch in stolen moments before the world tore them apart. This time, he'd make sure Mateo's dreams came true. Their lips met in a kiss that felt like a promise, soft and urgent under the fading light. Elias's heart raced, every touch a defiance of the fate he'd escaped. But the moment was shattered by the crunch of tires on gravel. Headlights swept across the hill, and Travis's voice cut through the night. "Well, ain't this cozy?" he sneered, stepping out of his truck with two others. Their silhouettes loomed against the dusk, their laughter sharp and cruel. Mateo pulled back, his face pale. Elias stood, placing himself between Mateo and the group. "Leave us alone, Travis," he said, his voice low but steady. Travis grinned, his eyes glinting with malice. "Or what, Carter? You gonna cry to your boyfriend?" The words stung, but Elias refused to back down. He remembered the night of the crash, how Travis's taunts had pushed Mateo to run, how Elias's silence had let it happen. "Walk away," Elias said, his fists clenched. "Now." One of Travis's friends stepped forward, but Mateo grabbed Elias's arm. "Eli, don't. They're not worth it." Travis laughed, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "You two are pathetic," he spat, but he backed toward his truck. "This town's gonna chew you up." As the truck roared away, Mateo let out a shaky breath. "You okay?" he asked, his voice trembling. Elias nodded, but his heart was racing. "I'm not letting them scare us," he said, pulling Mateo close. "Not this time." That night, back at Mateo's house, they sat on his bed, the room lit by a single lamp. Mateo's sketches covered the walls, vibrant and raw, a testament to his unspoken dreams. Elias traced a finger over a drawing of a coastal city, the lines bold and hopeful. "We're gonna get there," Elias said, his voice soft but certain. "You and me. California." Mateo's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "You make me believe it's possible," he whispered. "But what about Javi? My mom. I can't just leave them." Elias's chest tightened. He remembered how Javier's struggles had kept Mateo tethered to Willow Creek, how they'd led to that final, fatal night. "We'll help them," he said. "But you deserve a life too, Mateo. You deserve to be happy." Mateo leaned against him, his head resting on Elias's shoulder. "You're too good to me, Eli." "No," Elias said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm just making up for lost time." The next day, Elias found Rosa at the diner, her hands busy with orders, but her eyes distant. He approached her cautiously, knowing her wariness of him. "Mrs. Alvarez," he said, "I want to help Mateo. And Javier. Whatever it takes." Rosa's gaze softened, but her voice was firm. "You're a good kid, Elias. But this family's got problems you can't fix." "I know," Elias said, his voice steady. "But I love him. And I'm not giving up." Rosa studied him, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded, a small gesture that felt like a victory. "He's lucky to have you," she said quietly. Elias left the diner with a spark of hope, but the shadow of the past loomed large. He knew the clock was ticking, that every moment brought them closer to the night he'd lost everything. He had to keep Mateo safe, had to rewrite their story before fate could claim it again. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance of hope and fear. Elias and Mateo grew closer, their love a quiet rebellion against Willow Creek's stifling air. They made plans for California, poring over maps and job listings in stolen moments. But the town's judgment grew sharper, and Javier's chaos cast a long shadow. One night, Elias found Mateo at the river, his sketchbook abandoned beside him. His face was drawn, his eyes red from crying. "Javi's gone again," Mateo said, his voice hollow. "He took Mom's savings. She's a wreck." Elias knelt beside him, his heart aching. "We'll find him," he said. "We'll make this right." They drove through the night, checking Javier's usual haunts, dingy bars, abandoned lots. They found him at a rundown motel, slumped against a wall, his eyes glassy. Mateo's voice broke as he pleaded with his brother. "Javi, you gotta stop this. You're killing her." Javier's laugh was bitter, broken. "You think you're better than me? Huh? Running off with your boyfriend, leaving us behind." Mateo flinched, but Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "He's not leaving you. He's trying to save you." Javier's eyes flickered with something like shame, but he turned away. "Just go," he muttered. "I don't need you." Mateo's shoulders shook as they drove back, the silence heavy between them. Elias reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "We'll get through this," he said. "Together." But the weight of Javier's words lingered, and Elias felt the past creeping closer. He remembered the night of the crash, how Mateo's guilt over Javier had fueled their fight. He couldn't let it happen again. The next day, Elias convinced Mateo to visit a local art gallery, a small space run by a woman named Clara, a 40-year-old black artist who'd escaped Willow Creek's judgment years ago. Clara studied Mateo's sketches, her eyes lighting up. "You've got something special here," she said. "I know a gallery in San Francisco that'd love this." Mateo's face lit up, a spark of hope breaking through his worry. Elias felt a surge of pride, but also fear. The closer they got to their dreams, the more he felt fate's pull, threatening to unravel everything. That evening, they sat on Mateo's porch, the air thick with the scent of rain. Mateo leaned against Elias, his voice soft. "You make me feel like I can do anything," he said. "But what if I'm not enough?" "You're more than enough," Elias said, his voice fierce. He pulled Mateo into a kiss, desperate to anchor them in this moment. But as thunder rumbled in the distance, Elias's heart sank. He knew this storm, knew the night it heralded. It was the night they'd lost everything. "We need to stay together tonight," Elias said, his voice urgent. "No matter what." Mateo frowned, sensing his fear. "Eli, what's going on? You've been acting like the world's about to end." Elias's throat tightened. He wanted to tell Mateo everything: the crash, the second chance, the desperate need to keep him safe. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he pulled Mateo close, his voice a whisper. "Just trust me. Stay with me." As the rain began to fall, Elias's mind raced. He had to change the course of this night, had to keep Matteo from running into the storm. But fate was relentless, and the past was a shadow he couldn't outrun. The rain came down in sheets, just as Elias remembered. It was the night of the crash, the night he'd lost Matteo. He stood in Matteo's living room, his heart pounding as he watched the storm rage outside. Matteo paced, his phone buzzing with texts from Javier. "He's at the old bridge," Matteo said, his voice tight. "He's drunk. Eli, I have to go get him." Elias's blood ran cold. This was a moment that had shattered their first life. "No," he said, grabbing Matteo's arm. "You can't go out there. It's not safe." Matteo pulled away, his eyes flashing. "He's my brother. I can't just leave him." Elias's chest ached. The memory of the crash vivid in his mind, Matteo's car skidding on the wet road, the headlights blinding, the sickening crunch of metal. "Please, Matteo," he said, his voice breaking. "Stay with me. We'll figure it out together." Matteo's face softened, but his resolve held. "I have to do this. Eli, I'll be back. I promise." Before Elias could stop him, Matteo grabbed his keys and ran into the rain. Panic surged through Elias, and he sprinted after him, the storm swallowing his shouts. He caught up just as Matteo reached his car, grabbing his shoulder. "Matteo, listen to me. You can't drive tonight." Matteo turned, rain streaming down his face. "Why are you so scared? Eli, what's going on?" Elias's voice cracked, the truth spilling out. "I've lived this night before. I lost you, Matteo. You died, and I couldn't save you. I can't lose you again." Matteo froze, his eyes wide with shock. "What are you talking about?" Elias took a shaky breath, the rain soaking through his clothes. "I don't know how, but I got a second chance. To fix everything. To keep you safe. Please, don't go." Matteo's expression wavered, torn between disbelief and trust. The rain slowed, and for a moment, the world was still. Then Matteo stepped forward, pulling Elias into a fierce embrace. "Okay," he whispered. "I'll stay." They stood there, clinging to each other as the storm raged. Elias's heart pounded, relief flooding through him. He'd changed it. He'd rewritten the moment that had torn them apart. The next morning, they found Javier safe, passed out at a friend's house. Rosa cried with relief, and Matteo held her, his eyes finding Elias's with unspoken gratitude. They didn't talk about Elias's confession, but something had shifted between them, a deeper trust, a shared defiance of fate. Weeks later, they left Willow Creek behind, their car packed with Matteo's sketches and Elias's dreams. They drove west, toward the California coast, where the sky was endless and the world felt new. In San Francisco, Matteo's art found a home in Clara's gallery, his sketches drawing crowds who saw the beauty in his soul. Elias watched him shine, his heart full. They stood on a cliff one evening, the Pacific stretching before them, the sunset painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. Matteo's hand found Elias's, their fingers entwining. "You saved me," Matteo said softly. "Not just that night, but every day since." Elias smiled, his eyes shimmering with tears. "You saved me too." As they kissed, the world felt right, whole in a way it hadn't before. Elias had twisted fate, orchestrated every missed moment, and built a future where their love could thrive. The scars of the past remained, but they were proof of what they'd overcome. Together,